Good afternoon. This is Carrie O'Brien at Fulbright, Columbia. I'm the Education USA advisor here at the Commission in Bogota. Today we are presenting a webinar with the University of California, Davis School of Law. And this webinar will be about how to find the best law school for you. So today we have Kim Koenigsberger presenting on behalf of UC Davis School of Law, and we also have Concha Romero, who will be available to answer questions in Spanish if there are any questions at the end of the presentation. So we also are co-hosting with Education USA Manizales. My colleague Silvana Sarasti is on the line, so I'll let Silvana introduce herself and then we can begin the webinar.
Hello, everybody. My name is Silvana Sarasti. I'm Education USA advisor in Manizales, Caldas, Colombia. This is a binational center, and we are really happy to have you today.
Thank you, Silvana. So without further ado, Kim, feel free to take it away and start your presentation about UC Davis School of Law.
Great, thank you, Carrie and Silvana. Good afternoon to everybody. As Carrie mentioned, my name is Kim Koenigsberger. I am the Manager of Partner Relations and Recruitment here at UC Davis. Today I'm going to give you an overview of really how to find the best law school for you. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll pull in examples from UC Davis School of Law, but it should give you a pretty comprehensive idea of where to start in your search and things to ask. Okay, so let's get started. There's different degrees offered by U.S. law schools. One thing I want to mention is that all of these degrees here are actually graduate degrees. So prior to getting to this point, people have a one-year or a degree in a first-year degree. So you often have your bachelor's degree, which in the U.S. is 4 years, and then you move on to these degrees. People can come in with varied majors, anything from an art major to a political science degree, and then you pursue your law degree. So the first one I want to mention is the JD, or Juris Doctor. This is a 3-year degree. Your first year you take mandatory classes, usually a prescribed curriculum, and your second and third year you take more electives. Students who usually do the JD degree are typically American students or those that are really focusing on passing the bar exam, which allows them to practice in the United States. It's becoming increasingly more popular for international students to also pursue the JD, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Then we have the LLM degree. That's a 1 to 2 year program for international legal practitioners and international law graduates. The goal of this degree can really vary by individual, but you often want to obtain advanced knowledge of the U.S. legal system or have a specific field in law. And then the final one I'm mentioning here is the SJD or PhD program. This is a 3 to 5 year program open for both domestic and foreign scholars with your intention really on research and publishing and joining academics. So now I'll talk a little bit about becoming licensed to practice United States law. One thing to note is that we do function on a federal system. So not all power is not delegated to the federal government. It remains with the states. So each of the 50 states has their own constitution, governmental structure, legal codes, and judiciary. So in the United States, you must be admitted to the bar in which state you want to practice. So for example, if you plan to practice in California, then you should probably attend a school in California and thus take the California bar exam. There is oversight, which is done through the American Bar Association, and this is a national organization that, again, provides the oversight and accreditation of legal education in the United States. There's a couple things to note about becoming licensed to practice in the United States. One, of course, is the education. So you will want to note, will your degree qualify you to sit for the U.S. bar exam? If it will not, can I get into the LLM and then sit for a U.S. bar exam? Of course, the bar exam, it's given twice per year. And in addition to the bar exam, we note a few other items to consider. So now I'll get into a little bit about how to choose your school. There's so many things to consider when applying for a law program, and so I'll bring up various questions that will help you through this process. So first off, assessing overall quality of law schools, a couple things to consider. Faculty, of course. You want to look for publications in their specialty field, the number of professors, the diversity of professors. A lot of this information can actually be found on the school's website. Of course, rankings, they are a critical part of your decision, and you can start to look for some rankings on U.S. News and World Report, specifically the law school rankings. I should note that this is not a national ranking. There are various rankings out there, nationally sponsored ranking rather. So there are various rankings out there to look into. Alumni success, this is also very important. So look for alumni profiles and student testimonials. Sometimes they are posted on websites, but if you can't find them, do feel free to contact the school directly. Often the admission officer can put you in contact with alum or current students. And reputation, what have you heard about this school? What legacy is it leaving in your legal field? This can be a little bit more challenging being an international student, but again, you do have some resources available in your home country, as well as the law schools and admission reps. And lastly, support services for students. So is it important for you to have a law school with career services? For some people, that is very important. For others, they might be continuing their law career in their home country, and it's not as critical. Accessibility of faculty. So here in the U.S., faculty are often much more available to students than perhaps in some other countries. There is usually a very strong student-to-faculty ratio, and at UC Davis, that ratio is 10-to-1. Faculty do dedicate a large amount of their time to students, and so they have office hours. They're available by email and text and other methods. So it is important that you reach out to them and really utilize their resources. They will become involved with student organizations. They're oftentimes mixers, networking socials, professional events. So it's not just your time in the classroom, but also all the resources available outside the classroom. And lastly, there's faculty organized symposia and other value-added education events. And again, you can look for some of these on the calendars of different websites at the law school. So another thing to consider is program options and area of specialty. So do you want to specialize, or do you want a general LLM? Or perhaps you're not sure, and that's perfectly okay. In that case, you probably want to look for a program that's going to offer you a lot of advising throughout the entire program and help you choose what classes are right for you. If you have a specialty, are the areas you wish to study clearly covered in the curriculum? Are your professors in the field well respected? Will you take the bar, and is bar prep offered? This is something that you should really take seriously because, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you will need to prepare for the bar in that particular state. Will you transfer to a JD program afterwards? And if so, does the school you're considering offer a path for this transfer? And lastly, do you want a 1- or 2-year program, part-time or full-time, English study or not? There are so many options out there that it is really important to know what you want. Other things to consider, integrated or not with the JDs. So there is a benefit to spending time with JD students because you will be learning from them and sharing a lot of diverse perspectives, keeping in mind that JD students are typically your American students. Now, some LLM students might feel a little bit intimidated by this, but usually they adjust quite quickly within the first few weeks of class. But there is that advantage of being in class with JD students because you're able to make professional and personal friendships with them, and your professional network will grow immensely. Also important to consider is student associations and enrichment activities. So it's not just about your experience in the classroom, but also all the valuable resources outside the classroom. So you want to consider how many clubs and associations are organized at each school. What kinds of guest lectures are offered, conferences, centers, other professional events, and are they regularly scheduled at each school? So just to consider that there are many, many resources within a law school outside of the typical classroom. And student life and community life. Going into a law program is a very intense experience, and so you want to make sure that you have a strong foundation in your personal life. So do you have an existing connection to a particular school, a friend or family member that has attended that university? Perhaps they can assist you. If you have children, you may be looking for a very safe and family-oriented community. You want to look at where students are living. Are they mostly residing on campus? Do they commute? Is it a combination? What's important to you? Look at the amenities, such as recreation center, performing arts center, sports. Every campus is slightly different in this way. And is there a specific location you want to practice in? You should likely go to law school there. Another thing to consider is, do you want to be in a big city or a small town? You also might want to consider the weather, especially if you're used to a certain climate. Going to an extreme cold climate could be quite a shock. And a very big part of your decision, of course, is costs and funding. So what is your budget for tuition, and what about housing and living costs? So usually admissions officers can give you at least an estimate of housing and living costs. Tuition, of course, you would know the exact amount. But what is the payment schedule for tuition? And oftentimes it's not all due up front. So you would pay the tuition prior to each term that you enroll. You want to consider if you have funding sources from your own university or government. Many times the law school may offer scholarships as well. Even if they don't post the scholarship, it's always important to ask because there might be funding that just hasn't reached the website quite yet. Also look at other scholarship and funding organizations. So we've provided a link on the UC Davis site of some external funding sources. And what special characteristics do you value? Do you want pre-LLM programs at the same school? Do you want international English programs? So, for example, at UC Davis, we do have a legal English program that starts prior to our LLM program and helps students who might want that extra confidence boost of improving their English before they enter into full-time classes. You want to consider the legal landscape of each school in terms of internship, optional practical training, and job opportunities, as well as networking. And look at the condition of the teaching facility. Perhaps that is something that's very important to you if you want to use their computer labs or some of the resources that they have. And in addition, what kinds of special resources do you need? Pretty much every U.S. university has disability resources, but there's a number of resources available. So what to expect in the classroom? the classroom experience can be quite different than what you're used to. You might be used to the traditional lecture method, which is the professor would come in, give the lecture, the students take notes, and they're expected to know that information. The Socratic method, on the other hand, is quite different. In this case, students are asked to prepare prior to class, do a lot of reading, take notes, and then be prepared for discussion in class. Then the professor would ask questions back and forth of the students. There would be discussion. There's a lot of interaction. So it's a quite different way to learn. It might be a little bit intimidating at first if you're not used to this type of learning method, but in fact it does prove to be very effective. There is quite a lot of reading involved, so you do need to allow plenty of time for that. As I mentioned before, sometimes classes are with JD students, and so again, very interactive sessions. One thing I want to note as well is do not attempt to pay for your LLM degree at the same time that you're doing it. It is a very intense program, very rigorous, and you need to focus all of your attention on being a student. Additionally, on a student visa, you're not permitted to work that many hours, and you're not permitted to work off campus. So we really encourage you to take full advantage of your time as a student and hopefully come with the funds available. Here I'll provide you with a few additional resources. LSAC is a great resource. You can create a student profile on here. Most U.S. law schools are on here, and most LLM applications are here. So this is your one-stop shop for really learning a lot about other law programs. However, there's more places to do research as well. So you can find the llmguide.com, of course, individual law school websites. Really do utilize those admissions officers. They're there to help you. They want to hear from you. If you would like to reach out to a faculty member, they're oftentimes your liaison. A number of law schools also have social media platforms. You can use your in-country resources, such as your education or Fulbright offices. There are occasionally a few LLM-focused education fairs, and oftentimes Fulbright or Education USA will help promote those. There's also info sessions. Those can be offered in country. Sometimes they're offered through a local law firm that perhaps the university has a connection to. You can join webinars like this one, and there's also live online chats. So a lot of opportunities for you to gather information. So now I'm going to switch gears slightly. I've kind of given you an overview of the legal education or LLM education in the United States, and I wanted to bring out a few examples from the University of California, Davis. So we are a part of the University of California system. There's 9 campuses within the system. You might be more familiar with some of our, I suppose, well-known colleagues, which is UCLA and UC Berkeley. UC Davis is also that same system, and we're located just north of San Francisco. We have about 35,000 students total, and in the law school, approximately 500 students, although slightly more this time around. The city of Davis itself, for those of you that are not familiar, it's a very safe, friendly town of about 65,000 residents. It is the bicycle capital of the USA, so numerous bikes, probably more bikes than cars around here. It's a highly educated population and a very mild Mediterranean climate. Here are some of our rankings. So we are known as the 30 best law school according to the latest U.S. News and World Report. Number 23 on faculty quality and number 5 on faculty diversity. Here's a little bit of information about our academic year LLM program. So we do have the, you can do a general or a customized LLM program. It's really tailored to your needs. You can select a specific area of focus in our law school curriculum. We do have the 2-year LLM option for those of you that need to spread out your studies for a little bit longer. And in addition, we have bar preparation. So a large number of our students will go on to take the bar. These are a couple of commonly selected areas of concentration at the law school. So business law, criminal law and procedure, environmental and natural resource law, healthcare law and bioethics, human rights and social justice law, intellectual property law, international law, public interest law. These are just some of the areas of concentration. There are more, of course. So a couple of things that are unique to UC Davis School of Law. We have outstanding faculty and scholars who are really dedicated to our students. They do amazing work, amazing research, really quite active in the community, but they love to share their knowledge with students. And I think that is one of the distinguishing factors of our law school, as students do get a lot of individualized attention here. You will find that there's an innovative and engaged student body. Our LLM students are integrated with the JD students, so there's many opportunities for collaboration and learning among international and American students. Also a very intimate student environment. All of our classes do take place in the King Hall facility, which is fairly new and a quite wonderful facility. We have outstanding library with access to collections from all of the UC campuses, and a possibility to transfer to the JD program. This is becoming increasingly popular, so many of our LLM students would like to transfer to the JD. And of course, we do have scholarship opportunities, so I would recommend, if you're interested in that, do email us soon. We also have Career Services Office, so they will help with resume and cover letter review. We have mock interviews and interview coaching and lots of networking workshops. Very active student population, so more than 50 law student organizations and student-run journals. In the picture, you'll actually see one of our legal field trips. So students went to the state capitol, which is in Sacramento, very close to us. For a better idea of all the events that we do have here, you can go to our website and see the list of events there. In addition, we have the part-time summer LLM in international commercial law. So this is a very unique part-time structure. You can complete it in 2 to 5 summers, but it is an 18-week course of study and the option to pay as you go. So this is ideal for those that are already really working in the legal field and want to come to UC Davis for the summer, do their coursework, return to work in their home country, and then come back each summer, and over time eventually complete their degree. We also have pre-LLM programs. So we have the English for Legal Professionals, which is an intense course in English that focuses on legal English, jargon, all of the things that are going to help you in your LLM course. And then we also have the Orientation in USA Law program, which is for 4 weeks in July and August. Lots of student activities here on the UC Davis campus. So we have the Student Recreation Center, outdoor recreation activities, several pools on campus, several sports clubs, and more. You probably won't have time to do all of these things, but this is just an example of what you could get involved with. And finally, I'll leave you with our email and our website and our Facebook page. So please feel free to follow us on Facebook and see what kinds of activities we're doing in the law school. So again, this is kind of a very brief overview, but we welcome you to reach out to us, and we thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for that informative presentation. I hope this was helpful for those of you who are listening. And now I'm going to give a space for Silvana to ask maybe 1 or 2 questions, if there are any questions that she has at her advising center. So I'll give a moment and see if maybe Silvana has some questions from her advising center.
Okay, Carrie, thank you. I have a question. I don't have this student here, but I have a question from a student from Paso for Universidad Cooperativa. The question is in Spanish for Concha. ¿Cuál es el camino que debe llevar un estudiante si quiere hacer estudios de posgrado y está adelantando un pregrado en Colombia?
Vale, gracias. A ver si he entendido bien la pregunta. Es un estudiante que está haciendo un pregrado, que me imagino que será una licenciatura.
Sí.
Vale, y bueno, pues lo ideal es que esa licenciatura sea en Derecho o en algo relacionado con Derecho o Ciencias Políticas. Y una vez que han terminado su grado en Derecho, entonces lo ideal es que hagan un LLM, un máster en Derecho Americano. No sé si he contestado bien a la pregunta, no sé si esa era la pregunta.
Sí, claro, sí, muchísimas gracias.
Nada, sí. O sea, para clarificar, básicamente la gente que viene a hacer un máster, lo que ha hecho antes es un grado en Derecho o una licenciatura en Derecho o el equivalente que sea en el país. En Colombia me imagino que se llamará pregrado. Un pregrado en Derecho y luego el máster, que es posgrado.
Great. Are there any other questions, Silvana, or was that it?
Yes, what is the kind of exams that a student has to present apart of TOEFL or IELTS exam? What is the exam, the special exam for law?
¿Puedo contestar yo a la pregunta?
Claro que sí.
Vale, bueno, pues normalmente el único examen que se necesita es un examen de inglés. Y este examen puede ser o el TOEFL o el IELTS y básicamente cualquiera de los dos vale. No sé ahora mismo cuáles son los números que se requieren, lo puedo mirar rápidamente, pero es básicamente, a ver, déjame ver rápidamente. Creo que son 80 y pico en el TOEFL, que es el examen que toma más gente, y 6,5 en IELTS. Pero no hay un examen de materia de derecho, básicamente, simplemente el examen de inglés, para saber cuál es el nivel de inglés que tiene el aplicante.
Gracias, Concha. ¿Y el LSAT aplica en este caso?
No, el LSAT solo es necesario cuando el aplicante quiere acceder al programa de JD, de Juris Doctor, que es la licenciatura en Derecho americano. Para el máster no hace falta el LSAT.
Súper, gracias. ¿Alguna otra pregunta de Manizales?
No, por ahora no.
Excellent. Well, thanks again to UC Davis School of Law for participating in today's webinar, and thank you for everyone who listened today. Thank you to Silvana for being a co-host from Education USA Manizales, and I hope this information has been helpful for everyone who's interested in studying an LLM. Thanks again to Kim and to Concha.
Thank you for having us.